that he had come into contact with some kind of non-human marine consciousness. Maybe ancient, maybe extra-dimensional, maybe no one knows. He also said that Cantinflas didn't allow maids in and asked for extra towels for the floor. A trivial detail, right? If it weren't for the smell that, according to Armando, reminded him of the Dead Sea and oxidized copper. Recently, a video of mine went viral here on my channel where I told the story of Cantinflas, the Mexican comedian who kept a creature from another dimension, a kind of aquatic being similar to a mermaid, imprisoned in his beach house in Acapulco, and he was even investigated by the police. But the thing is, this story didn't end there, no. This story didn't end at the house in Acapulco. We know that he abandoned the house in Acapulco and that this house is still abandoned to this day. Because no one has dared to live in that house again to this day, not even Cantinflas' own heirs. But Cantinflas was a very strange man. He certainly discovered something when he came into contact with whatever it was he encountered while he was in that house in Acapulco. After he left that beach house, the actor started to visit Mexico City regularly, and he always stayed at the same place, at the Reforma Hotel on Paseo de la Reforma Avenue, which is close to the old Cine Alameda. It's just a few blocks from where Masonic events and high-level political meetings were held. There at that hotel, Cantinflas would never accept any room other than room 214. And that in itself was already quite strange, because room 214 faced the back. It didn't have a view, it wasn't luxurious, it was far from the elevator, but close to the service stairs, and he insisted on it, not just insisted. He brought his own belongings when he stayed there and asked for the hotel room furniture to be removed while he was staying there. So, everyone, the question comes up, right? What could he have been doing in there? Well, for years, the hotel staff kept silent. But after the comedian's death, a former employee named Armando Cifuentes reported that whenever Cantinflas stayed there, he would bring suitcases with dark glass bottles, sealed metal tubes, and on one occasion he carried a refrigerated container. He also said that Cantinflas didn't allow maids to enter and would ask for extra towels for the floor. A trivial detail, right? If it weren't for the smell that, according to Armando, reminded him of the Dead Sea and oxidized copper. But the most disturbing part of all comes in 1993 when the hotel underwent plumbing renovations. When they demolished a false wall that existed in room 214, they found a hollow compartment behind the headboard with circular marks on the floor, as if something had been spinning there for a long time. There were also traces of coarse salt, copper wires, and esoteric drawings with marine symbols, all burned from the inside, as if they had been electrocuted from the inside out. The hotel management kept this whole story secret because they didn't want to attract the police there, since the police were already investigating Cantinflas because of the house in Acapulco, remember? But internal documents reveal that the renovation engineer requested an external analysis of the material found there due to the risk of biological contamination. And the report was never attached to the files and no official explanation was given. Now stop here with me and think. What in the name of Jesus Christ exactly was Cantinflas doing inside that room? Why was he trying to repeat the pattern of his house in Acapulco? The isolation, the aquatic symbols, the enclosed environments, and the structural modification of the room's space. Well, there is a theory among scholars of unconventional phenomena that suggests Cantinflas was not just obsessed with mermaids, but that he had actually come into contact with some kind of non-human marine consciousness. Perhaps ancient, perhaps extra-dimensional, perhaps no one knows. In other words, that he was in contact with something he found there in Acapulco, in the reefs beneath his house, and that he started to nurture it in other places, in strategic locations, kind of like a sort of sect or cult. And according to this theory, the Reforma Hotel was one of those places. What is known is that this hotel was built over old colonial tunnels in an area of anomalous magnetic accumulation. So, there are reports that the area between the hotel and the old Cinema Riscala shows faults in the geomagnetic field, which could make subtle ruptures in the dimensional structure easier. So, in other words, that place held some kind of portal where reality was thinner. So, could it be that Cantinflas might have discovered this? Did he choose room 214 there because he could repeat what he did at sea, only this time on land? And what about that refrigerated container, the wires, the symbols? Was he feeding something, or was he opening portals? Or was he trying to contain a presence that could no longer return to the ocean? We still have an even more sordid detail to this story, okay? Because there's a letter written by him, although never authenticated, that was found inside a Bible that stayed locked in the hotel's safe until the year 2001. And the letter said the following: "What we brought from the sea must not speak, but it keeps watching and moves even without water. This room is sealed, but not by me. They will come when the line is opened, but still who are they?" And what exactly was brought from the sea there into that room? Since the reopening of the hotel under new management, under new administration, room 214 ceased to exist for rather obvious reasons, right, guys? The number was removed and the suite was renumbered. In other words, today, if you go to the hotel, it goes straight from 213 to 215. There is no 214 anymore, and the place is now used as a storage room. According to the new managers, the employees avoid talking about it because they're afraid of the subject. They say that on some nights, especially on waning moon nights, guests report the sound of dripping water, even though there are no leaking pipes on that floor. They also say there's a very strong smell of brine and iron that comes from completely dry walls. But if no one knows this story because it's very hidden, is all of this just a coincidence, a collective delusion, or are people, the guests, being affected by whatever is in there? Could something have spread throughout the Reforma Hotel? Well, we don't know. All we know is that Cantinflas has always been considered a very enigmatic man. He was a genius of comedy, yes, but also a guy who had some very strange habits, and he took long breaks in his career. He would spend a lot of time isolated in silence, and he also had a real fascination with occult symbols. The House of the Mermaids there may have been just the beginning, but the Reforma Hotel might have been the incubation point of a secret that should never have left the ocean. And the question that no one answers is, did the creature he summoned stay in the house? Did he bring it to the city? Did he imprison this creature inside the hotel? Well, honestly, after hearing all these stories about Cantinflas, I don't believe he actually summoned a flesh and blood being, okay? I don't think it's a creature that exists in our dimension. It's more like something supernatural, really. Something he summoned. An entity from the sea, a presence. Because after all, stories about mermaids and mermen have to come from somewhere, right? They didn't just come out of nowhere. Nobody made them up. These stories are passed down, right? And in any case, if you haven't watched the video where I talk about the case of Cantinflas' mansion in Acapulco, I highly recommend it. It's a viral hit here on the channel, okay? The link is up here in the cards, down below in the description, and also showing up on the end screens of this video. But now, guys, what do we do? What could this man have been doing inside that hotel suite, Anyone want to take a guess in the comments? And also, I've mentioned this to you before. A mermaid is a very powerful archetype, right? And I'll wrap up this video here, but of course I want to know your opinion down below in the comments. And I want you to comment mermaid down below in the comments too, because that's our magic word for today. Did you know about all these stories involving this super famous Mexican comedian? Have you ever heard about the summoning of sea creatures before? Well, comment down below everything you think about this, and I'll see you in our next videos. Bye!